Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton faint, move, and verbally shuffle their way to fame or infamy, it is our task to now wait until the final adverb has dropped. It is to examine what we have heard, what has transpired, and what the controversies are we will be talking about for the next 3 weeks and will, into the light and dark of eons to come, be discussing. Of course, we already know that the one annoying issue that will emerge from tonight's third and final presidential debate is that the event is being held in Nevada, not Nevada. Anyone using the latter will be forced to have all of Hillary Clinton's Wall Street speeches read to them while bound in a very uncomfortable chair that may or may not have been lifted from the White House by those exiting the Bill Clinton administration. Now that we have that out of the way, welcome to the Newsmax continuing coverage of the third and final presidential debate. I am Ed Berliner with a reminder I am always secretly correcting your grammar. I'm joined by Miranda Kahn and John Bachman here in the anchor desk. I will not be going after their grammar. And from our Newsmax studios, by the way, in New York, Bill Tucker finally joins us. All right, Bill, you're the newbie to go ahead and weigh in here. We haven't had a chance to talk to you. John, you're coming up next. But all right, Bill, what have you seen here? A very quiet Donald Trump to start things out, and it took him till 9:57 p.m. Eastern time for the first mention of the emails. I thought he would have gotten to that a lot faster.
Oh, there's a lot about this debate that's really disappointing me, frankly, Ed. I'm disappointed in both of them. I've heard a lot of platitudes. I've heard more of the same from Hillary about she wants to continue Obama's plans. I haven't heard a good rejoinder back from Trump. I haven't had a good, honest disagreement. Frankly, Ed, I'm kind of depressed that one of these two people is going to be leaving the country, if you really want to know
now,
the truth.
Wait a minute, wait a minute. Now you're
that.
getting depressive all of a sudden on this date? It took you this long?
No, look, you know, I'm sitting here looking at these TVs, and I'm going, one of these two people is going to be our next president. There's one of those two people, and one of those two people is going to lead the free world. Neither of them seem to be able to speak specifically. Neither of them seem to make a good argument, but I will give Mrs. Clinton this. She is extremely adept at deflecting and moving off topic and not talking about things she doesn't want to talk about. So in that sense, she is definitely the most practiced politician up there.
John, what'd you get so far?
I don't know what we all expected, right? We were hoping for issues, and I think we were all optimistic when this started off with the Supreme Court questions, because that's really what's at stake here. But the issue is, I think for people who are supporters of Donald Trump, why they are disappointed is because we know Donald Trump had issues preparing for these debates. And when you look at Hillary Clinton, I'm not saying that she's actually making the better arguments, but she at least seems to be more prepared and is coming across as more prepared than Donald Trump. And I think that's the issue, and that's why Donald Trump has such a hard time, quote unquote, winning these debates in the eyes of most of the media out there, is because we're used to seeing presidential candidates who prepare extensively for these things. Donald Trump style, which might play well to these rallies, don't necessarily play very well when he's in this type of arena. And there have been several occasions, especially with the Russian and the Putin issue, where he just cannot seem to defend himself from this issue. He knew it was going to come up. It's been a huge problem. The same thing with the nuclear weapons in Asia. I mean, these are two issues that we all kind of, those who are not never Trump people, but have expressed some, reservations about some of the things he said. These are issues that really concern people. When you talk about nuclear weapons in Asia, come on, we don't want to, it came up again tonight. These are the things when you prepare for debates, you go back and look at what the candidate said, and you can bring up these issues again. And she did it with Russia. This is the third debate where she's kind of pinned Trump against the wall on Russia. And I'm surprised, well, no, maybe not surprised, but you would think after two of these debates where he's been hammered on this issue, he would have had it figured out by the third one.
Yeah, and I thought it was a missed opportunity. I was talking to Ed about this earlier, where he really could have hit her hard over this, because we've been talking about WikiLeaks. Some people in the Clinton camp have said, well, we don't know if those are legitimate, so not really acknowledging them. Some have, some say I don't recognize this. Clearly, she was acknowledging this email and saying, oh, wait, if you read more, this is more of what I said. So she's giving legitimacy to it.
Well, I think
he could have hit her on that. And then the other thing is, when she talks about Russia, and she's sitting there, the Clinton campaign, Democrats have been saying the election can't be rigged. Well, here you are accusing the Russian Vladimir Putin of interfering with American politics. He could have hit her on that.
No, Bill, go ahead, Bill, because I know you're dying to get in on this.
Yeah, well, the problem that I had with this whole WikiLeaks discussion is she was really great at suddenly making it about Russia interfering with American election system. Trump responded by saying, we don't know who did it, and they got off on a who did it thing.
Right.
And they got away from the content of it. They didn't talk about any of the content of the emails, and that's where I give Mrs. Clinton her points. Trump missed a golden opportunity to say, really, he could have thrown back at her famous line. What difference does it make where they came from? What difference does it make? Let's talk about what's in those, because you clearly are not comfortable about talking about the content of these WikiLeaks. He didn't.
I think that's an excellent point, because Donald Trump,
that.
he has had time to sit there and absorb the WikiLeaks, all of these various documents. He's had time for his people to certainly go through, give me 10, give me 5 good WikiLeaks emails that will make the point. He has refused, and Bill, it's a great point. He has not come back with that. He still misses the specifics because he goes broad brush. Then again, I got to keep coming back to this. People follow him for that broad brush. They don't
but it's
necessarily
the thing
want
that irritates.
specifics.
Go ahead.
It's just irritating because he's lazy. He's lazy. He's running for the presidency. He shouldn't be lazy. He should be prepared. And whether you like Mrs. Clinton or not, she at least has been getting prepared, and it's like she at least comes off like she might know what she's talking about, even if you don't like her and you know all the scandals and everything else that surrounds her. He's giving her the debate in many ways because he comes off as just having been too lazy to get down to his points and make them. He seems lost up there.
One of the points he always makes is the fact that Hillary Clinton, you have had 30 years experience in the government and you haven't done anything, which quite frankly is a misnomer, because as a Secretary of State and a congressman, you can only do so much. You certainly can't make decisions like the president does. But this is something that Donald Trump has been hitting her on. He did it again tonight. He brought it up. Here's how the exchange went.
I ask a simple question. She's been doing this for 30 years. Why the hell didn't you do it over the last 15, 20 years? You were very much involved. Excuse me, my turn. You were very much involved in every aspect of this country, very much. And you do have experience. I'd say the one thing you have over me is experience, but it's bad experience.
Now, and she came back. I mean, guys, I really didn't. I want to make sure. Do we have her response on the 30 years? Because I wasn't sure. In the control room, do we have that soundbite? We do not. Okay. She came back and gave a very detailed response on that, and really, I thought, put him in a box.
And again, not necessarily that I agree with Mrs. Clinton here, but this is a clear case of where she prepared. The 30 years line came up in the last debate. And of course, I'm sure they reviewed all the tapes of the last debate, and they had a stock answer prepared when Donald Trump brought up 30 years of experience. The reason why he's bringing that up is because he's casting her as the Washington insider, casting himself as the Washington outsider. And this is where the preparation for debate comes in handy. Donald Trump threw out that line again. Hillary Clinton was lying in wait for him to mention it.
So then where do we go from here? Because this debate is going to be over soon. We are really hearing in many ways, and Bill, I think you alluded to it a little bit, we're really hearing a lot of the same things.
It is.
We really have not heard anything different at this point. I mentioned earlier in the show that I heard Donald Trump supporters saying today outside the Thomas and Mack Center, they really wanted him to talk about where you're going to take this country. Don't tell us about where we've been.
Yes.
And I think that's the biggest thing that we're seeing here. Donald Trump has a chance to grab those independents, and I think he has a chance to grab the people who will vote for Hillary Clinton and don't like her and can't stand her. If he just gives people a vision of where we're going. Building a wall is nice, but it's not enough. People finally want more after 2 shows. This third act, I think, is wearing very thin.
If we think back to the 2012 presidential elections, the only thing that I can remember about the last debate was the issue over the status of forces agreement in Iraq. Is that the kind of thing that's going to...
That's wonky, but boy, that's good. That's what needs to be remembered.
But you think about these things.
Well,
but I'm tuned into this.
Let me ask
is that going to sway anybody?
Let me ask everybody in Florida a question.
Go ahead.
Let me ask everybody in Florida a question, okay? Who down there wants low-paying jobs? Who wants low-tech jobs? Who wants a bad education system? Raise your hand if you want any of those things. It's not about that. It's about how we achieve that.
Right.
Part of that falls on Chris Wallace of not asking them and pinning them down and saying, how do we get that? Mrs. Clinton talks about she wants infrastructure jobs. Obama did that for 8 years, and it hasn't worked.
Well, Donald Trump's
nobody's talking
economic
about
plan
how we
includes
get there.
infrastructure too. He basically has a stimulus
Yeah,
package.
I know, but nobody's talking about how they're going to manifest it. Nobody is telling us how they're going to make it happen. And that's what's driving me crazy.
I think what has to happen is Donald Trump has to answer things, for instance, such as Moody's Analytics came out with an analysis on Monday that showed that his economic plan will significantly hurt the economy, will significantly put us deeper in debt, and they're not just the only ones. There are other studies out there who have said that his economic plan for this country cannot work under any circumstances.
But Bill, you know this too. You've covered financial journalism for a long time. These economic plans are basically campaign documents. You know, the power of the purse lies in the hands of Congress. The president can send a budget to Congress, but we all know President Obama sent how many numbers of, 8 budgets to Congress, maybe 7. I don't think he sent one in his final year.
So much power.
Never even got to read.
Let him come out and knock this down. See, these are the kind of things I think he's got to come out and knock down and say, it's wrong. Here's what we want to do. Look, guys, and Bill, hang on one sec, but I want to get this in here because let's be honest. Republicans everywhere want Donald Trump to win. They want him to beat Hillary Clinton.
I don't think all Republicans.
I was going to say, I don't
wait a minute.
I agree with him.
The people who are behind Donald Trump want him to win.
Of course.
There's people out there who want Hillary Clinton out at every stretch, in any stretch. I think what they're wanting is, please, Donald Trump, give us the thing, get in there, make the points, win this thing, and stop playing this little game. Stop playing small ball, if you will.
Look, on the economic point, and which John brought up, if you have an economic plan that you can't argue convincingly, you don't have an economic plan. That goes back to the laziness in terms of preparation. I could argue his plan. I could make sense out of it. I'd defend it. I'm not Donald Trump. He's the guy who has to do that. Mrs. Clinton can speak convincingly about her plan, and yes, she has had endorsements from economists, excuse me. But she stands for it and puts her plan out there like she believes in it. He goes in these broad generalities, and he doesn't answer it. He had to have known. He had to have known he was going to get questions on his economic plan tonight. Did he just not care and not get ready to answer it?
Well, apparently that's what Roger Ailes is saying, right? And that's why they're saying they separated. I don't know.
No talking between those two. So
I still am not sure if, and we'll talk about this after the break more, and we also want to talk about the economy a little bit after the break and what they've said.
What's that?
Exactly, what is policy? I haven't heard a whole lot different tonight, and I think that people on both sides wanted to hear something different than just the same show. It's a great show, but I think we want a little meat right now.
I agree.
Give us something
We're
instead
hungry.
of just an appetizer.
Are you concerned about your future, Ed?
I am
why?
I am very concerned about it, as should all of America, as a matter of fact. When we come back, we are going to talk more about the economy, some more from the debate. Your phone calls at 1-877-NEWSMAX, 1-877-NEWSMAX, and we'll talk about where you can go vote at Newsmax polls when we come back right after this.